back to another video. Today we are going to be discussing how interviews should work in F1 2020. There's just 4 things really that I really want to touch on. Obviously, interviews have been one of the things that have been neglected over the past. Well, it got added in F1 2018, and basically it was alright to begin with. They had the questions, but then you'd get ridiculous questions that you couldn't give answers to, and it just, the interviews are not. There needs to be that instant reaction based on the interviews like there is in FIFA, and not really something. Although you do see the instant reactions, but they're not. It's not like FIFA. There's a lot of work to be done. So there's a lot of work to be done on the questions. How Claire styles the questions, they need to be more related to how we do it. But I would be for to getting rid of Claire altogether and having somebody. I think I can't remember who the bloke they were saying. The bloke who does, I can't remember his name. Who does the stuff for F1's YouTube channel should do it. Personally, I think they should get a whole raft team. I think they should get rid of Crofty, to be honest, because he's useless. I think they should have a presenter, Steve Jones. Scanning the Channel 4 crew, you get Steve Jones, then you'll have David Coulthard, Susan, Billy Monger. That'd be cool to see him presenting as well. Maybe they invite you along for some. That would be quite cool if they invited you along to do something like test out, ride a classic car around Silverstone if it's an anniversary or something. Stuff like that would be actually quite cool to see. But so the whole presentation package needs. There needs to be a presenter. We haven't. Crofty and Anthony Davidson actually have head scans in the games, but they're not used. It's bizarre. Why aren't they used? They should be used. So yes, first of all, that needs to happen is press conferences. In F1 2010, I'll put stuff on the screen now. In F1 2010, we had you'd introduce yourself for a press conference, and stuff like that should be added as well. Press conferences are held pretty much. I think you may get an email from Claire. You've been invited on the Thursday of the weekend. You've been invited to this week's press conference. Let's go. Personally, they should actually start the weekend on the Thursday. The Formula 1 the weekend starts always on the Thursday. There might be one or two one-off interviews. That's where you'd hear about the R&D reports. That should also all be on the Thursday, not on the Friday, because Friday is reserved for practice. So yes, press conferences where you might get involved. You also have other press conferences that you might wish to hold, but not through F1, through the official F1 content. If, let's say, something really ridiculous happens, then you could do that, but that would be a separate sort of thing. That would have to be a storyline sort of end where you'd be, like, say, interviewed outside your house or in a studio, stuff like that, as opposed to being on the official F1 press conferences like they have in real life. Number 2 is grid interviews. Now, I should explain what I mean by grid interviews. This is when you see, basically, every time before the Grand Prix, they always go and interview somebody on the grid to get their emotions pre-race. And I think that for the player, that should be quite cool to get their emotions pre-race. What are your hopes today? You've had a poor. Unless you're the top 3, you don't really get interviewed on a Saturday. Most of the interviews done on before the race. They might ask you a few questions. You may get, as I said, we need different people to work with, so we can have a different relationship with maybe get 2 interview people in the game. So maybe add a few people to do that. But yes, and then also they do the podium interviews as well. They don't do them in part firming like they show in the game. No, they do them on the. Well, they do them now. Before they used to do them on the podium. Now they do them when they get out the cars on the grid, well, in the pit lane when they come to the end. So stuff like that would be quite cool to see. Get your reactions before and after the race. And it sort of introduces the next idea, which is also introducing the media pen. When you're out of the race or after the race, you'll go and have a discussion about the media pen. I think all the drivers have to go through that before they can leave anyway. So having Claire question you there, as opposed to when, I know it would be the same background, but maybe you could do something like when they had, like on F1 2017, because in F1 2017 the hospitality suite had a background of the track, so Belgium you could see Eau Rouge, etc, etc, you get the idea. So in the background you could see, I don't know, Turn 1 or the paddock or something that characterises the track, otherwise that scene is going to get very static. Something like that, because the game is very static between rounds and they all merged into one really. So yes, moving on now to the final point of the interview, which is about something that's already in the game. It's that you see the interview transcripts. Okay, they've done some voice recording already for the F2 part. So yes, I believe that I would love to see those cutscenes be transferred to progress through to the F1 career mode. But one thing that I would like to also see is you'd get, instead of having seen those interview transcripts, you would see Claire and Lucas or Devon get interviewed. So maybe if they were to bring back the hospitality suite, like they had on F1 2017, you had to cut to a cutscene where in the corner, if there'd been a controversial moment in the race, for example, you would be able to see then Lucas Weber on the screen, or Devon Butler more likely on the screen, and him, I don't know, mouthing you off saying it was my line, etc, etc, and you're outrageous. Stuff like that would actually be quite cool to see and definitely keep the game alive, because the game now is so dead. It is definitely modding season, and like with what Ara was saying in his video the other day, Codemasters, if you're listening, we want the language file, thank you. And don't give us that absolute BS about the fact that linked the game for this year. I mean, if you've got next year's stuff in the game, take it out. Who puts next year's content in the previous year, in the current year's game? Nobody. I mean, I guess if they should be testing it on a ball, I don't mind if they do that, but then they're releasing it. I don't get how they're releasing that out then to the wider audience. So that definitely needs to stop. So yes, that's going to be it for today's video. If you enjoyed, leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you see more F1 2020 game news as when they come out, of course. If you've got any game ideas of your own, then please let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to go and check out the previous playlist as well to see the more other game ideas that I've already put on the channel. But until the next video, I'll see you next time. Take care. Thank you so much for joining today, and goodbye.